What we'd do, we'd go into a little village at night, or when we got to as far as we could go, why, we'd booby-trap the roads and whatever, be just small villages, because we were never really or in bigger cities. For some reason, we were in the part of Germany it was more small farming community. And the lieutenant come to me and he said, there's that house over there, go tell those people to move out, because we're going to use that for the headquarters. But I was more of a diplomat than, because you can catch more flies with sugar than you can vinegar. So I told the people, you know, they were crying, and it was older people and a lot of kids and whatever, but it was one of the few two-story houses you'd see in a village. And then I got to tell them, you know, that we're not going to burn your house, we're not going to destroy it, or any of this, you know. And this one older fella, he was, when I say older, he was probably 80, you know, like some of the rest of us. But anyway, he said, where'd you learn to speak German? And I said, well, my grandmother and my mother. And he said, well, we were told that you would burn us down and maybe shoot us or whatever. And I said, no, we're not going to do any of that. Well, then they just got started moving their clothes and whatever out, and the lieutenant come to me and he said, hey, he said, I don't want that house. That's one of the high points of the little village. And if their aiming post will be for a mortar or artillery, you've got to have a high point to zero in on. He said, that's the high point. He said, go tell them people move back in. So I let the sugar run out of my mouth and told these people, well, you got all these little kids and we feel sorry for you. Move back to your house. We're going to take another house over here. Well, when they started doing that, well, this older fellow, he said, come with me. So we went down the basement, and it was just as empty as could be, and there was a row of shelves, probably about 10 feet long, just looked like old wooden shelves. He reached in behind it and unhooked the door, and that whole row of shelves come out. And in there was a room probably about maybe 10 foot square. And in there was several cases of eggs and butter, or it was margarine to them, or to us, and loaves of bread, and a rack of wine, and hooks on the ceiling were all like liverwurst and different types of meats like that, all in rings. And so he said, we hide this from the German soldiers, because he said they just went through here yesterday. So when I went out of there, well, I had a big loaf of bread and a bottle of wine in each pocket, and my helmet full of eggs, and rings of that blown up. And I walked out of there, you know, and I went back to the Jeep, and I said, we don't eat rations tonight. We're going to eat fresh eggs, fried in butter, and chase it with wine, and chop all that meat right up in the eggs, you know. So a lot of that German paid off in those kind of things, you know. So, but it was, and then when we come across this concentration camp, what it was it was a holding camp for the people. Well, all right, like Buchenwald and some of those others they kept a steady flow of people coming into there. Well, these camps, I think there were 7 of them. It was Landsberg, that's where Hitler wrote his book, you know, in that area, Mein Kampf. Well, they had set fire to the barracks, and I think there was about 30 of them left still alive. But 2 of the kids I talked to, they were kids now. They were 14 and 15. They were brothers.
German kids, right?
They were Polish, see, but they were brought there on these old box cars, and then they'd hold them in these camps till they got ready for them at some of these other, where cremated him. But so there was bodies laying everywhere, and the lieutenant come to me and he said, take that truck, and like I say, I'm still a buck private, you know, and he said, well, take that truck, I'll have somebody drive it for you, and you go in there and go into this little town that was close here. Everybody that you think can run a shovel or do any work at all, load them in that truck and bring them back here. So I said, well, what if they don't want to get in? He said, shoot them if you want to, I don't care. So I went back to this village and I loaded up the whole truck. And I had 2 or 3 that said, no, they weren't getting in that, you know. But after I told them, get in or I'll shoot you. So then I took them back to this camp, and I made several trips like that. But then we made them start digging a great big shallow grave. And those townspeople made them pick up those skeletons and haul them over to that pit and start throwing them in there. Well, this was like in, I think, I don't know, January maybe, but it was still cold weather. But anyway, wasn't very long. That only lasted a couple of 3 hours, and then the lieutenant said, come on, we got to get out of here. Let somebody else take this over. So we turned that over to some other outfit there, and they let them continue that. But you know, that didn't. In fact, I've got a picture at home, a couple of them, that I took of those bodies. And the reason I had a camera, I liberated it out of a house. It had 2 pictures left on that old box camera. The pictures are getting so faded you can't hardly tell what it is, but that's what I took those pictures of and stashed it away in my Jeep. But I brought it home and had it developed. But like I should have had it preserved some, but it's deteriorating so bad now. But like I say, I was never wounded. But one of I think a cup of hot cup of water saved my life one day, because the friend kind of befriended me that when I went into this outfit. Him and I kind of run together and went on these patrols together, and one day he said to me, well, we was on this deal, and he shot this German and with his carbine, and I said, and he didn't stop him quick. I said, if you're going any further with me, you better get rid of that pop gun and get you a rifle. Well, nothing more was said, but we got out of that scrape, and about 45 minutes later, we'd stopped, and I got out my little stove. Every vehicle had a little stove for heating up water or whatever you could salvage to eat, and I got my little stove out and put my canteen cup full of water. I had it hot, and the captain come up and he said, I need you 3 guys to go up on that hill and see what's going on up on that hill. And so he looked at me and he said, no, he said, don't you go. He said, your water's boiling there. So I was getting ready to put my bouillon in it. That was one of the rations we had. And so this guy, he went with 2 other guys. Well, we hadn't been there 20 minutes and we heard a bunch of shooting. Well, he was one of the guys who got killed. And the other 2 got wounded. I think the one guy ended up dying, and the other guy lost a leg out of it. But then we went on down the road, and I think that day there was 9 of us, and they hit 5 out of the 9. So, but I know our outfit has an annual reunion. And just a couple of reunions back, this guy was talking about something, and he said, you know, I never did know who was just behind me when this tank come up and crawled along and went so we could get out. So that while they were shooting at us, that tank stopped the small arms from getting to us. And he said, there was some guy right behind me. He said, I never will forget that dirt flying down my neck. And I said, I was the guy behind you. And but like I say, I come out of it, wasn't wounded,